Hi guys, thanks for joining us at 360 Wargaming again for another video. Something a little bit different, something I don't normally paint for me this week. We're hosting a demo game at ChillCon in March. I'll drop a link to their Facebook page in the description below. And they're based in, or the event's going to be based in Sheffield. We've been for a couple of years. Really enjoy it there, but it's the first time we're going to be running a demo table, and we're going to be demoing a narrative kill team alongside LCA, who are good friends of ours who manufacture MDF terrain with a narrative spin. So we're going to be running a narrative kill team event with two side-by-side tables, but they're going to feature veteran guardsmen, which as a guard player I already have painted, but we're going to be facing off against Vespids and Tau Pathfinders. So I'm going to need to get those painted up. So we're going to start with the Tau Pathfinders. Now, I got these, they're a little bit of an eBay miniature rescue, in that they were built to this position when I got them. There are some mold lines to clean up, so we're going to do clean up. I'm going to do the first build just on the leader of the squad to start with. So I'll get the first build video done on this one, and then I'll paint the rest and show you them all at the end of the video. But we're going to do the build, the clean up, and the paint on this one model, and then show you them all. Okay, so let's get started. So first things first, let's have a look at these mold lines. Let's see what we need to get removed. So they've been cleaned up mostly here on the leg. It's still got a little bit of a flat spot, so I'm just going to carefully round that off with the knife blade. Let's see what else we've got. We've got a couple on the leg. So there's a couple there, you can't really tell because of the angle of the camera, but just there in the crease between the legs and along the folds. A couple more that are a little bit more obvious on the bottom of the backpack here. Just get in and remove those. And then just on the gun here, there's a few again. And probably on the bottom of the gun as well. Next up, it's going to be the weapons. So I've chosen which weapons I wanted, click them off. I have no idea what these are, I've just followed the build instructions. I have never built, painted, played Tau in my entire life, so I do not have the slightest idea what any of these are. So if anyone wants to point out in the comments what I'm working with here, then feel free to go ahead and do so. I, like I said, have no idea about Tau. I've been a guard player since the late 90s, so it's just to remind everyone that I am old as well. So I've been around the hobby for quite a long time. When I started playing, the Tau didn't even exist. Right, so they're all cleaned up. Just going to glue them together. I'm going to glue the component parts together first, and then I'm going to glue the arms to the body itself after I've actually done the painting. I'm going to offer it up to figure out the best location, but as I've said previously, I much prefer to build and paint in sub-assemblies, so it's much easier to do if I don't glue the arms on and get into the places that I need to get into. Right, so we'll start. I'll glue the left hand onto the left arm and try and get it into the best pose that we can for the body that we're building. So a little bit of Tamiya thin cement. And get that hand glued in at a decent angle. Hoping, yeah, we can put that so it looks like he's actually looking at it. So there we go, we'll get that angle, it's quite a good one. Maybe tilt it back ever so slightly. And then pop that to one side to dry. And then with the gun, it's going to be a case of gluing that in place on top. And there's still a little bit of cleanup to do on the front that I missed. Right, so we'll let them dry, then we'll come back in a minute and we'll position them, decide whether to pin them or whether to just blue tack them in place ready for priming. Right guys, so I've decided we are going to go with blue tack and give it a go and see if it'll stick. So I've added a bit of blue tack to the gun arm. There was a hole, so I filled the hole in first and then added just enough blue tack that it's going to squish out and hold the rest of the arm in place, but not so much so that it's going to cover any of the model later. So if that does happen, there is a little bit pushed out on the back. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my blade and come and scrape it away whilst holding the arm in place. And push it back together. So, and then do the same for the other arm. Get into a position where it's going to be look like he's looking at it. So there we go. So that's the position that suppose he's going to be in. Both of the arms in place. And the blue tech should hold long enough for us to get him primed. So we'll come back. It'll be a few seconds for you. It'll be about an hour or so for me while the paint dries. We're going to take him and get him primed ready. So the model's now primed. It's got a zenithal prime, so black undercoat, then a grey from around 45 degrees, from around a 45 degree angle. So that means that we've got the darker colours underneath, and then when you look at it from the top, it's a little bit lighter. Now, I prefer to then add a white dry brush over the top just to pick out those extra edges and lighten the top layers up. So I'm going to do that now. So I've got a Corax white, and I'm going to get my dry brushing palette out. It was kindly done for me by Daryl at LCA, and my very trusty Rosemary & Co dry brush. So you know how to dry brush, I'm sure by now. There's a bit of paint on your brush. I'm going to get most of it off, and then just in a downwards motion just to pick out those edges. There's still going to be the grey undercoat, there's still going to be the black undertones as well. When we come in with this contrast paint later, it just means that we've got that extra depth rather than relying on the contrast paint to do it all on its own. Well, don't get me wrong, the contrast paint is fantastic on its own. I see the downside to using blue tack to hold them together, so they do come off. So just hold it, and then what I'm going to do is I've got these little stations that I designed and built, and they're just perfect for when you want to do your sub-assemblies, so there's enough space for 5 models and 5 sets of arms, etc. I'm just going to do the rest of the dry brushing, and then on the gun arm I'm just going to pop that one off because it's going to come off eventually anyway, and just do the same there. And I do try and keep it in the orientation that it was on the model, so I don't end up with highlights in the wrong place. A little bit more. We don't want to put too much on because otherwise we just end up painting it white, and that's not what the aim is here. If we were going for white, then we should have just primed it white in the first place. Just a bit on the back. Right, so there you go. It's got a little bit extra. It looks very grainy on there, but once you come in and put that contrast paint over the top, you don't see the graininess, you don't see the dry brushing marks, you don't see the paint lines, and it all just blends it all in, and it just picks out those edges and those extra highlights. Right, so the dry brushing is done, and we're going to start with some colours now. Like I said, we're going to use contrast paints. I wanted to use a colour that I don't get to use very often, and it's partially inspired by a car that's near me. Ironically, there's a nice orange Ford Focus ST that has the last 3 letters of the registration number Tau, T-A-U, and I've seen it loads of times driving past me, so that inspired me to do these yellow. So I'm going to do the armour yellow and the head yellow, and then the fabric and the cloth and things I'm going to do purple, and then I'm going to have to do a bit of research because I don't know what colour towel legs are. So I have no idea what colour these are meant to be, but we'll do that and we'll pick that out afterwards. First things first is going to be getting that orange coat on. and it's just going to be on the armour and helmet to start with, and then I'll figure out where else it needs to go after that. Right, so I'm going to let that dry, then I think I'm going to come in and do a second coat on it and just give it a little bit more brightness, make it a little bit more vibrant, and emphasize the orange on there. The dark black and the dark grey underneath just take the edge off it a little bit. So I'll put that second coat on and hopefully bring it up to the next level. Right guys, so off camera I did do that second layer of orange like I said I was going to do. So it's now on to the purple that we're going to do, and I'm going to use Shyish Purple, and I'm going to paint all the fabric with this. So I'm going to get in under the neck, the legs and the cloth on the arms, and then it'll be onto the next stage of deciding what colour to do the weapons and the feet and things. So I don't think it's going to be a massive paint job to paint these. There's not too much in the way of different details. So I'll get the purple done. It might need 2 coats. I don't think it will with this one, but if it does, we'll come back in and do that off camera and bring it back. Once that's done, in the meantime, while I was waiting for this paint to dry, I went ahead and got another 4 of these built and primed, and another 5 for the rest of the squad just built up. So I'll get them primed and they'll be painted in the background again. We don't need to see me painting 10 models, just need to see the one being done so we can see how the scheme's coming along. So I will get on with this. We'll do a time lapse and then I'll show you once it's done. Right, so next we're going on to, I'm going to do the hooves slash feet slash whatever you want to call them of the Taus. I'm going to do that with Space Wolf Grey, and then I'm going to move on to the weapons. And I think for the weapons, I'm just going to do a simple black and metallic look. So do some silver and some black on there, and that'll be the next step. I'll just get this on there first. It's nice quick one. This is one of the things I love about contrast painting, that I can get it done and get a squad done in a week without any issue around work and family and things, ready to play with. Normally I wouldn't have my models on the base. I like to base them separately. It just makes it a little bit easier. But these were already glued to the base, so I kind of had to stick with that. And the other thing, normally I pin my base, put a pin in the boots of my guardsmen. Can't really see where I'd put a pin in the feet of a Tau. There's just not enough room to drill that hole to get it in there. But that's the toes done, so we'll move on to the metallics next. It's gonna be lead belcher that I'm gonna use, and then I'm gonna use black Templar, I think, for the rest of the weapons. So we'll get started with this lead belcher, and I'm gonna go. I think what I'm gonna do is let's get this on camera. I'm still getting used to this setup. I'm going to do the handle here with lead belcher. I'm going to do some silver bits up here in the lead belcher, and then this bit here on both sides again with the lead belcher. So it'll be this bit, and a bit up here that I'm going to do, and then anything else on there will be painted with black Templar. I think it's going to be the best option. So lead belcher first. I'm just going to put it on my paint palette that's just off to the side here and get that started. I'm also, I think, going to do some of the, I think I'm going to do the antenna on his head, a mix of black and silver as well. The gun on his hip will be the same black and silver, and I think possibly the casing for the knife, and then I'll do a leather wrap around it, and the handle, and then the cloth I'll do with Wraithbone. So it'll be painted Wraithbone, 2 coats of Wraithbone, then an Agrax Earthshade wash, and then highlight it with Wraithbone again just to pick out those edges. And then these packs on the back, I'm guessing they're the ammo packs, some description, that go into the pulse carbine itself, and they're going to get a coat of silver, and then there's just the belt left to do, which is going to be snakebite leather. So do brown leather on here, leather on the strap there. So that's what the plan is. So I'm going to start, now that I have got my silver paint out, I'm going to get started with that. Like I said, it'll be the handle first. I'm going to paint one side first, so I can set it down and dry. And then I'm going to paint the silver bits on the main model and body itself while it dries. And then I'm going to come back in and paint the other side. It just makes it a lot easier, so I can actually put it down while the paint dries. Otherwise you just sat waiting for it, and it takes a while. It's also a bit of a fiddly one to do because of the size of it. The arms aren't very long. It doesn't really leave for much room to manoeuvre these things. Just pop it down there. And then pretty much the same here. With this one, I want to do the whole bottom of the gun. Back here, I can do silver. And what I'm going to do the top half of that in silver. Just going to give the gun a bit of contrast there. Not quite sure about this piece yet. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research and see what colours other people are painting them, because like I said before, I have absolutely no idea about Tau. I don't know what the thing is, what it's supposed to be, what colour it's meant to be, etc. So I'm going to set that down for now, and then I'm going to get back to finishing this pulse carbine. I think it's called a pulse carbine. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, I know absolutely nothing about Tau. Right, there we go, that's the metallics done. So we'll let that dry. Like I said, I'm going to find out what that actual thing in his left hand is and make a decision on how I'm going to paint that. So we'll be back in a few moments and we'll look at where we go next. Right, the silver's dry now, so it's time to get that black on there. So like I said, Black Templar's contrast. Nice and simple. Anything that has some silver on it is going to have some black on it as well. So it's going to be the gun on his hip, to the other side of the ball this time. The knife holster, and then his pulse carbine. I'm also going to do the knife handle black as well. Just pop that in a bit of blue tack so it doesn't fall over. That means I can paint it all without having to come back after. Now, one thing I did say I was going to do, I was going to see what colour people were painting these. I did find an image of somebody who's painted it was like a glowing piece of equipment, so it's holographic. And I love using a thematic blue for giving that holographic effect. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a shake and then I'm going to use the Athematic Blue, and again probably going to need to do 2 coats of this to get the depth of colour right on it. But I painted the main piece silver, and then the bit that's coming off it I'm going to paint with that Athematic Blue. It's definitely going to need a second coat. That is the plan with this. And again, I'm sorry for going off camera with these shots. I am, like I've said, still trying to get used to it all, the setup and things, and where the camera is, and when I'm in shot and when I'm not in shot. So it's just taking a little bit of getting used to. But there you go, that's the plan with this. Just done the first coat. I'll do a second coat when it dries, and then we'll come back to looking at the final pieces that we've got. So it's been a couple of days since I was last painting the Pathfinders. I've been focusing on getting the Vespids done, which if you have a look at our Instagram and TikTok, you'll be able to see those. There's a short for them on the YouTube channel. But we're back now, we're looking at the Pathfinders again. So I've had a couple of ideas. Obviously I'm going to come in and paint the fabric here with a fabric colour, and then I think to finish it off, there's a couple of leather straps that need painting here and here, and then I'm going to give an Ultramarines blue contrast wash over the blue and silver, just to give it a little bit something different. I'm not quite happy with how it's turned out with the black and silver, so I think giving it that slight blue tint might make a difference. So we're just going to crack on with that. I'm going to start with getting a coat of Wraithbone down on the fabric, and then I'll do the contrast paints. Right, we're going to do the Ultramarines blue first. We'll get that over the weapons. I just think it'll add a different dimension to the gun, to the black and silver bits. Just to give it a little bit of, I'm not entirely sure what, and we'll see how it turns out. I might completely hate it and paint over it, but at the minute I really don't like how the black and the silver's turned out. So I'm hoping this will just give it a little bit of a different tint. What I'm hoping is once this dries, it's more of a tint to the black and the silver than an overpaint. That's my hope anyway, but we'll come back once it's all dried and we'll see. And I'm just going to do the same on the gun and on the same parts on the model itself. And again, hopefully it'll just be a tint to the existing colour, just to give it a bit more depth, I think. I don't like how the colours match between the black and the silver and the purple and orange. And then just while that dries, I'm just going to do a second coat on the wraithbone. We'll set that down to one side, let that dry for 5 minutes, and then do the snakebite leather just on the straps on the knife, and on, I'm guessing, the ammunition pouches and the belt around his waist. So I'll come back in a couple of minutes and get that done. So the ultramarine blue contrast is just about dry now, so before I come and do the leather, I'm going to add some skeleton horde onto the material, into the fabric, the cloth around the end of the knife that we painted in Wraithbone. So skeleton horde contrast paint, and that's going to be used. It's going to be used instead of an Agrax Earthshade wash, and it gives it a slightly different tone, obviously because the difference in the tone of the colour. I'm not going to thin it down or anything. It's just literally going to do the job contrast paint would normally do it, and it just makes it look like dirty cloth rather than being perfectly white and clean. We will come back in, we'll add highlights and pick out the raised sections again with more Wraithbone after. Can't really tell with the leather on the belt because of how dark it is in those areas, and that's because of the way that we've done the zenithal shading previously. And then just on the leather strap that holds the blade into the sheath. And then just come back here. So again, just put that to one side to dry, and I'll come back in, finish the Wraithbone off, and then finally glue them all together. The only thing left to do then is the basing, but you don't need to see that. We've all seen how I do my bases, but that's where we are at the moment. So just in 5 or 10 minutes when that's dried, I'll come back and finish it, but thanks to the power of the internet it'll only be seconds for you guys. So we're back now, and the contrast paints are dry, so let's bring him up close so you can see him. Get him in the camera. There we go. Add a little bit of that depth back in. Right, so it's just a case of letting him dry now, gluing him together, and I'll come back and show you the finished model in a couple of minutes. Right, so there we go guys, all glued up together, glue's dry, paint is mostly dry. I'm still not 100% happy with the final model, but I'm just going to take that as an opportunity to come back in at a later date and make another video showing how I fixed it up to a more satisfying finish. Any tips on what you do, then just let me know down in the comments, and we'll consider how we're going to make it better in future. If you have made it this far, thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, help us grow the channel. We're hoping to add more painting videos, add some terrain making videos, and eventually some battle reports, amongst other things that us wargamers like to do. So like I said, please give us a like and subscribe. check out our Facebook and other social media pages, and we hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching and goodbye.